BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything sports betting. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during games. With the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, MLB playoffs, NHL, NBA, to political props. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online, the game starts here. Welcome, everyone. It is the Fly Guys podcast. It is going to be a lot funnier when people watch the YouTube version as to why I'm laughing right now. But it is the Fly Guys podcast.
I'm not going to cut it. I'm not going to cut. Usually I cut like right there, but like with the way, because of the microphone issues I've been having, I haven't been able to edit like I want to. So I've just been like uploading them straight. I'm not cutting it. I'm keeping everything in. That was fantastic.
That stays. But it is the Fly Guys podcast, episode number 186. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It is a late edition. It is a after dark episode of the Fly Guys podcast, which means more laughs, more gaffs, more spoofs, more loofs, and a lot more talk about last night's Flyers Edmonton Oilers game. Yeah. It's the only game that we have to talk about.
That's all we got. That's it. Yeah.
Cameron, are you rested? Did you get the rest you needed following us getting off the other day?
We're good. We're rested. Played a bunch of Star Wars, dude. I've been in a Star Wars kick for the past 3 weeks. Past 3 weeks. And yeah. So I was rested. Was able to take a nice full nap too as well before the Flyers game last night. Late one. Loved those. Loved late ones.
I mean, I'm so glad they're just getting this West Coast trip out of the way. And
True.
And listen, they got to come to LA at some point. I understand that that'll be a late game. They got to go to Utah at some point, and that'll obviously be a late game. But I am so happy that they are just done, for the most part, with these 10 o'clock starts. I stayed up and watched that game last night against Edmonton. And let me tell you something. The difference, because we've now had it 2 times, with 2 losses, 1 win, even though it's 1-1-1, so that makes you feel a little bit more cosmetic. When you stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning and they win, you feel like a titan. You're like, I was rewarded for my fandom. When you stay up, and by the way, great pen choice, by the way, love the G2 Pilot pen, the best pen in the world. It's the only one you should be using. Mm-hmm. When you stay up and they lose in overtime like the way they did last night, you feel like that you are the biggest punk loser that ever lived.
Yeah. It's just a waste of you wasted my time. Okay, you wasted my time. You wasted the time of the advertisers. What are we doing, man?
I could have been counting sheep. I could have been dreaming about going on a date with Sydney Sweeney. Nah, I wouldn't have dreamed about that. That is just a joke. When Tori hears that, inevitably she's gonna be like, "What was that about?" I'll be like, it's comical. But no, the Flyers did lose last night to the Edmonton Oilers by a final score of 4-3 in overtime. The big thing coming out of that game, besides the amount of turnovers in the defensive zone that really need to stop, and I would greatly appreciate stopping, Matvei Michkov, you know what? It was well worth the wait. 2 power play goals to get his first 2 as a Flyer, and Cameron, to celebrate the event, what did they used to say back in the day on all the Flyers goals? When they scored for a case of tasty cakes. And I have to celebrate 2 butterscotch crimpets.
The best one.
Matvei Michkov's first 2 NHL goals. Cameron, in a losing effort, those goals were still beautiful. Talk about it.
Oh yeah, no, dude. It was a thing. There's some problems, right? There's some problems on this team. We talked about the goaltender problems. We talked about the penalty problems, right, and that kind of shit. The nice thing is that the highly touted prospect that has been the best prospect we've had since Eric Lindros is so far not one of those problems. So that's a really, really nice check of the box we can let off. The first one was slamming in there just by pure brute force, and also positioning, him being in the right spot, just not giving up on it. It had that hunger, that tenacity, which you wanted to see. I like the way you put it too when you text me, when you said when he celebrated it looked like he had been there before.
Yep, he put. Listen, it's obviously his first goal. That's going to be the exciting part, but he's like, all right, let's keep going. That's it.
Yeah, and then it was moving on. It was like, let's go. All right, let's keep going. Which I will say, I'm not saying that he's better than Alex Ovechkin, right? But no, I do. My joke is always like, because like that's he had the exact opposite reaction of Alex Ovechkin. Alex Ovechkin, every single goal is like it was his first ever, and it's like, dude, you do this 50 times a year. Like,
one might say it is cool how he appreciates
it
it.
is. I do appreciate it. I do. But it is like, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you have this kid who is also Russian, also a goal scorer, also highly touted prospect, and it was just like, he's like, yep, whatever. But the second one was really the one that I think we were all like, there he is. There
Because
he is. That's what you want to see.
as much as we love a greasy goal,
Yeah.
we also love wicked talent slap shot on a one-timer goal as well.
Oh my gosh. And it was beautiful.
Before you get into the second goal, can we
Yeah.
talk real quick how okay, so he obviously celebrates. They do a quick review. They say, "Yep, that's a goal."
Yeah.
And then Edmonton challenges for goaltender interference. Now, I don't know if goaltender interference is a reviewable part of the play when they're initially reviewing to see if it's a goal or not. I had the game was muted on my screen, so I don't know if maybe the announcers touched up on that, or maybe someone can just simply let me know in the below, like, hey, no, it's not reviewable. But it did feel weird that the goal was reviewed, it's confirmed a goal, and then Edmonton wastes their challenge on that goal.
It was explained. I do remember that. I do remember because I watched the replay just a little bit ago, and I'm blanking. I think it was because I don't want to misquote, but they do mention why. There's something about contact, something. It's some stupid rule jargon. Doesn't even matter because it was a goal. So it was one of those things, which was surprising. I was kind of surprised. Just the fact that I felt like the Flyers were getting some of the calls last night, which was very, very rare.
And they lost.
Maybe that was part of the script. Maybe that was part of the NHL script. I don't know. Make us feel happy, and then we'll just rip the rug out from under.
The Flyers penalty kill, as you mentioned, penalties once again an issue last night. They took 4 penalties. They killed them all. So I mean that's not why they lost. But I also want to point out Morgan Frost 3 assists on the season. Is there any player that might be benefiting more from being able to play with a guy like Matvei Michkov, like Morgan Frost is able to? Because this is obviously a contract year for him, but that second goal was a beautiful feed from Morgan Frost. It was a quick decision. We are seeing so many quick decisions from Michkov, but that was a quick decision by Frost. Get the puck, get it over to Michkov, 2-0 out the gate. It makes the power play. The fact that the power play was 2 for 7 last night and could have been the power play should have gotten another goal.
Yeah,
but the fact that they were 2 for 7, and the fact that it was this guy that made it happen. Is why you are going to be more confident about this season because the Flyers' power play does not look powerless. It looks formidable. You have to be worried about taking too many penalties against this team now.
That was my favorite thing. I was going to point out, my favorite thing about these goals, power play goals. Power play goals. That's why the kid was brought here, right? That's one of the big reasons. We got to have some success there. Same with Chetluchenko. Another guy who was brought here for the power play goal, or for the power play, for the special team kind of stuff. But yeah, it was beautiful, dude. The pass was ridiculous, but it was a really, really tough angle shot, right? Already. And it was just a ripping of a one-timer. There was no hesitation, as you just put it. It was as soon as it touched his stick, right? And that seems to be so far what we've seen from him, where it's the decision has already been made of what he's going to do, given his position, given where he is, given where the puck's coming from, given where everyone else is in his awareness. And it's as soon as the puck touches his stick, it's off his stick. It's like that quick. It's lightning fast, which is what you need in today's NHL. So yeah, it was great. It was electrifying. I'm not even gonna lie. It's the best word to describe it. It was electrifying. It was ridiculous.
It was exciting. The game continued obviously because there was more than just one period in hockey. After that, the Edmonton Oilers very quickly got back on the board in the second period. They eventually tied up the game on Connor Brown's goal, and the Flyers would get the lead back towards the end of the second period off of a deflection that we thought for a moment might have been Chetluchenko's first goal, which would have just been perfect if it had been his goal.
Yeah.
It's not. It goes to Bobby Brink, who is a polarizing player. Is he good? Is he bad? Does he belong on the team?
Right.
Should he be scrapped? Who knows? But he does get the goal. It's 3-2. Most of the third period felt like it was back and forth. Edmonton had their chances. Philly had their chances. Owen Tippett hit the post. The Oilers have been hitting the post all night against Ursan.
Seriously. Yeah.
And then finally, the big boys finally broke it out. There are times where I genuinely can't even be as peeved as I want to be. Evan Bouchard received a beautiful pass from Connor McDavid after he had received a beautiful feed from Leon Draisaitl. And the only thing I'm going to say is 2 of the goals. Really? No, I'm going to say 3 of the goals that were let in by Sam Ursan. I was like, what is he supposed to do?
Right.
We talked in the last episode about, we need a save out of, Ivan Fedotov, and we do, and the same thing applies, and will always apply to Ursan. But 3 of these goals were point blank right in his kitchen, no defensive support. And
Yeah.
the Flyers defense was bad last night.
Yeah.
You don't even need to look at Travis Sanheim's -3. You don't need to look at the fact that it basically was a 2-on-0 going back the other way in overtime that led to the game-winning goal by Leon Draisaitl from Connor McDavid. You don't need to worry about any of that. All you needed to know is this, that when it is the guts of the game and Evan Bouchard gets a point-blank opportunity right in front of Sam Ursan, you can't be doing this. The Flyers failed to get the puck out of the zone. They failed to win critical faceoffs, something that has been a problem for them really since last year. Really, you could go back to when Giroux left the team. But they don't win offensive zone draws. They lose key defensive zone draws. And honestly, they just simply got outworked for this win. They should have won this game, but they didn't. And that's going to be something they got to knock off because the lack of being able to get out of the zone, the defensive zone turnovers, like my goodness. Ristolainen has looked terrible, in my opinion, for these first 3 games. Travis Sanheim, I don't think has looked much better.
No.
Cameron
Sanheim was the one. I'm glad you brought that up. That he was the one. It was the Connor Brown goal that was the one that stuck out to me.
Yeah,
that was the one that peeved me the most because it was an own zone turnover, which is just that's the worst. That's just the worst because it's immediate. And when I went back and watched the replay, there he is hopping up on the rush, and it. And again, I'm not going to nitpick, right? I never played at that level, never even played hockey organized on an ice at that point. I played roller hockey here and there and that kind of shit. I'm just a guy. But it was one of those things where it was just like you can't leave the guy before the puck's left the zone. You can't hop on the offensive before the puck's even left the zone. And it hadn't. And surely enough, it got picked off and sent right back. And just by himself, Connor Brown is behind everybody. And it just frustrated because every time I see a goal against us, what I like to do is I'll go back and I'll look at the replay, right? And I will just look at the positions. And you just got to think, okay, it's pretty simple, right? D-man is going to be in the one corner, other D-man is going to be in the other. Or one's going to be going after a puck carrier who's behind the net. One's just covering the passing lane. And then the center is going to pick up the third, either corner, lane, whatever that's missing. And so when I went back, saw it, you just look back and you're just like, he's in position, and there's Sanheim in the slot on his way out, and it's just like, dude, you got it. But I don't want to nitpick individual because, like you said, it was multiple people, Ristolainen, Sanheim. It was not just it wasn't just one of them. Team effort, multiple mistakes were made, multiple own zone turnovers, a lot of giveaways, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating. And I at one point, I understand it. You want to get the breakout because you have these new offensive weapons that you want to use, but you can't cast aside the foundation that you've made, which is defensive positioning and making sure that you have your job is being maintained.
This is the 4th youngest team in the NHL. Am I really supposed to be mad?
Good thing to remember, yeah.
Am I supposed to be mad at Yegor Zamula, who had he broke even, played 20 minutes, had an assist, got a point out of it? Should I be mad at Cam York, who was a -2, played 23 minutes, which was the most for any defenseman on the ice, although he had the second most shifts? How about Travis Sanheim, who is the most veteran defenseman on this team outside of Eric Johnson, and was a -3, and tried to go coast to coast on a goal in overtime that led to a breakout for Connor McDavid. And the thing is, that was a breakaway for Connor McDavid. He got literally stonewalled by Sam Ursan. And you know what? As he was going in on that breakaway, I thought, I trust Ursan here because he's so good in shootouts. He's not going to bark first. He's going to make McDavid show him his cards first. And then McDavid made the move, and Ursan made the save. How is it that while Connor McDavid was taking time, he didn't have anyone near him. He was able to collect himself and get himself ready for the breakaway. How was it that no Flyers were busting their tail back down the ice to try and make sure that I don't know, in case another Edmonton Oiler happened to be trailing behind McDavid, that it wouldn't be a point blank opportunity. Like, I don't know, who's that guy that gets like every single assist goal from Connor McDavid? Is that Leon Draisaitl? That's right there to clean up the garbage and win the game for the Edmonton Oilers. I can think of like three guys outside of Connor McDavid. I don't want to see the puck from that point, that
Yeah.
moment, that spot. Zach Hyman is definitely one of them. Definitely someone like a Ryan Nugent Hopkins. Oh, and then obviously, Leon Draisaitl. I'm not mad that they lost ultimately because they're going to lose games. And the Oilers are not as bad as their record and their early play indicates. They're going to be a good team this season.
Yeah.
What annoys me is that it was the veteran defenseman making this critical mistake. It wasn't
Right.
It wasn't Jamie Drysdale, who played 13 minutes, by the way, almost 14 minutes, which that was the second least amount of minutes for a defenseman outside of Eric Johnson, which I don't want him mixed in with that company too often when it comes to those minutes. But I don't know. Maybe I just want my defensemen to not make those mistakes.
Yeah.
And I don't want Travis Sanheim is paid to be like, take your pick, an Adam Fox type defenseman.
Yeah, I don't know if he's getting paid that much. But no, you're right. Like, I see what you're saying. He's paid well, right? He's paid on a solid contract, which a lot of Flyer fans don't love, right, as it is, because he's very inconsistent year in, year out. He just comes in waves. There's moments, there's full seasons that he put together where you're just like, this guy's a bona fide top 4 defenseman. And then there are other seasons where it's like, I don't want to throw him out there at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems to be like it's just I don't know. Again, we're 3 games in. Who knows? And like you said, Edmonton is a great team.
By the way, Adam Fox, just so you know, 7 years, $66 million. Sanheim, 8 years, $50 million.
Okay. There you go. Yeah, there you go.
They're in the ballpark.
So it's close enough that it makes you upset. Yeah, I mean he's getting paid 8.125, 625 on the books.
So
every year. So I mean, yeah.
So they got a game tomorrow against the Seattle Kraken.
Yes.
Dave
Haxtell still there?
Yeah, he got axed.
I thought so. Okay, I thought so. Yeah. Way too late. Way too late. Oh, man.
Hey, listen, Dave Haxtell coached that team to a 100-point season.
True. He also coached, Claude Giroux to have his best year. So, there is that.
Yeah, I know. It's who is their head coach now? Their head coach. Oh, how do we forget this, Cameron? Dan Bilesmothers is their head coach.
Oh, my God. Yeah, it's all coming back.
How did we forget that? Oh, my gosh.
Those poor people, man. There's poor people in Seattle that they don't know. They don't know.
They don't know yet. And Seattle currently, they're 2-2 to start the season.
They're going to make the playoffs. Because of him, they will make the playoffs, and then he will change his entire coaching scheme. Every time, dude. I will not forgive him for the 2014 Olympics. I won't. I just won't. Will not. Didn't score a goal in the medal rounds. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Because now I want Phil Kessel to be grinding, and I want him to be a two-way forward all of a sudden. Oh, God.
Just as a reminder, Phil Kessel never did get to play under Dan Bylsma in Pittsburgh, because by the time Phil Kessel got to Pittsburgh, they had already long moved on to Sully.
Yeah, Phil said, I'm not coming, dude. I'm not coming if that guy's there. Want to be back-checking? Not happening, dude. No way.
So the Kraken got their first game of the season. They won back on October 2nd against the Oilers 6-2. They then lost to the St. Louis Blues 3-2, beat the Wild in a shootout 5-4, lost to the you know what? Actually, that might have been a preseason game then. Lost to the Dallas Stars 2-0, and then they just recently beat the Nashville Predators 7-3. So either that was a preseason game against Edmonton, and yeah, I guess it was. It was a preseason game against Edmonton. But point being, they're 2-2. They are going to be getting their second home game of the season. The Flyers last year, when they went out there, that was an interesting game when they went out there, because the Flyers did take the lead. It was 1-0. They gave up a goal kind of like in the third period, and then overtime came in. It is the one thing that he hasn't done yet that hasn't driven me out of my mind, but it was one of those games that goes into overtime, and Tortorella puts out Ryan Poehling, Noah Cates, and Rasmus Ristolainen.
Right, yeah, like Eric Johnson. Yeah, right.
You're like, all right, let's just wrap this up real quick.
Yeah,
we're not going to win in overtime. But the other thing that I will say about these 3-on-3s, the NHLA needs to make a move when it comes to. It didn't really happen last night because the Oilers are a fun team. As much as I hated losing last night, I will still say the Oilers play like men, and they don't skate it back out to center like those losers across the NHL do because they get scared. Like, oh no, I might turn it over. The Oilers are like, no, we're big, strong men, and we're going to keep the puck in the zone and fire it on net because that's what
Yeah.
real men do.
No, they are fun to watch. They are. I mean, they were the Stanley Cup last year. They have two of the best players in the league.
When the
They're
Flyers
fun to
go
watch.
out,
Yeah.
who do you think I need to buy a
Oh,
Connor McDavid.
you've been hopping on the Oilers bandwagon for a hot minute now. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I said I wasn't going to be hypnotized last year, and then they made a fool out of me.
Yeah, they crushed it. They crushed it. I
Um,
really thought they were going to do it too. I thought they were going to come back. I really did.
when Janmark scored that game tying goal against the Panthers, I'm like, oh, they're going to so win this game.
It was fun.
And that was a fun game. I
It was
loved that
fun.
game so much.
Yeah, it was a good series.
And so but the point being is that these 3-on-3s,
Mm-hmm.
the Flyers now played in 2 of them. They have to start winning these opening faceoffs out in center ice and get early possession of the puck.
Yeah, didn't love the face. Only winning 40% on the game is not ideal.
It's inexcusable.
Yeah, you can't do that.
They go into this game with the Kraken tomorrow, and for those who may not fully remember what this Kraken team is, they can score goals. Like they had 35 shots on goal against a good Nashville Predators team. They lit up. I'm sorry, not he was playing, right? Yeah, they lit up Saros, who's one of the best goalies in the game.
Yeah,
and they have guys like Jared McCann. They have Oliver Bjorkstrand, who I think is such an underrated player because he was so fun in 2018 in that series against the Lightning with the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Mm-hmm.
So John Tortorella knows him quite well. And I don't know if we'll see him tomorrow, but ultimately Joey Decord is a good goalie who has given the Flyers problems. So this is the last game before the Flyers will finally come home. It would be great if they could finish out this West Coast trip, the first 4 games of the season, having collected 5 of the possible 8 points. And I think that they're able to do it. I do believe that this Flyers team is one of the harder teams to play in the league because they just don't go away. The problem the Flyers had last night was a problem that they haven't always had. And it's actually been one of their calling cards. They find a way to win a game that maybe they shouldn't be winning. Last night, they kind of found a way to lose a game that I thought they maybe should have won. But like against Vancouver, that was a game they probably should have lost, but they found a way to win.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Take care of this thing tomorrow. Go into Seattle. Get the job done. I'll be interested to see if they go back to Ursan tomorrow or if it's another Fedotov game before they come home for the home opener Saturday. Because you imagine Ursan gets the start on Saturday, so they might spell him one more time and give Fedotov the game. That's also the thing I've been noticing. A lot of teams around the league are giving both goaltenders 2 and 2 to start the first 4.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense to give them like a little bit of freshen them up a little bit, right? Get them back into it. No, I kind of feel you because I do think Erson's going to start the opening game, the home game, no matter what.
He should.
Yeah, I could see them maybe doing both. I will say looking at Seattle's roster too. I just got to throw this out there as like a just hockey nerd thing, but Jordan Eberle, right? If you have not seen his debut goal of his first ever goal in the NHL, it's as good as it gets. It's as good as it gets.
Jordan Eberle's?
Yes, I think it's his. I think it's his.
You're probably right. I'm not entirely.
I just need to see that for the first half seconds. But
while you're looking at it, I just want to go through some surprises.
This is it. Yeah, all fair. But just for those also listening too, just look it up. First one ever. He just goes coast to coast, snipes it. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, they have a solid team. Not worried about. What's up?
Metropolitan Division currently. The Devils have played the most games so far. They're 4-2-0 right now. They have 8 points. Pittsburgh Penguins, they won tonight over the Buffalo Sabres. They're 3-2-0 to start their season. New York Rangers 2-0-1. And then a bunch of 3-game players, 1-1-1 for the Islanders, 1-1-1 for the Flyers. Capitals have played only 2 games so far, as have the Hurricanes. They've both split theirs. And then the Columbus Blue Jackets 1-2-0. The big surprising thing, I think, out of the gate, and when I say big surprising thing, again, it's 3 games in, so you can take this with a grain of salt. Colorado Avalanche and Nashville Predators both winless to start the season.
Yeah.
They've both played 3 games each. Dallas Stars, unsurprisingly, they were one of the best teams in the regular season last year. They started out 4-0 this year.
Yeah.
Winnipeg Jets, for the first half of last season, were the best team in the NHL. They're 3-0 to start this season. I
Yep.
think there's a lot of pressure on this Winnipeg team because if they do not get the job done and have a deep playoff run and they end up falling apart, I could see this being the swan song in Winnipeg for guys like Connor Hellebuck, for guys like Josh Morrissey, for Mark
Mm-hmm.
Scheifele. If they don't have a good season that results in, I don't know, a trip to the Western Conference Finals, I could see them all getting moved around because this
Yeah.
is already a Winnipeg team that doesn't like to spend a lot of money. They don't sell out a lot of their games. It's not the best fan base. It's not, which is crazy to think, because we're talking about like a Canadian team. They don't
Yeah.
have a great fan base out in Winnipeg. So this ownership group's not going to be patient to be paying all these guys if the results aren't coming in and these fans aren't filling up the seats to begin with anyway. Which is
Yeah.
unfortunate because I argue that they have the second best look in the playoffs. That whiteout with
It's beautiful.
it's beautiful.
It's absolutely beautiful.
The only thing that rivals it is an Orange Crush. That's the only thing that rivals it.
Oh yeah, yeah, which is coming back, by the way. No,
back.
and plus they have an old team. They have an old team, and they only have one player, I think, born after the year 2000. Two players, three.
Really?
My bad. After that, though, yeah, I mean, you're talking mostly 30s, mostly not old, not decrepit, but older. Like you said, the clock's ticking on that team. The clock is heavily ticking on that team. Dallas, like you said, we all knew they were going to be good, but I mean, holy smokes. Still the best team. The Calgary Flames too, 4-0. Trying to make that Jonathan Huberdeau contract worth something,
Maybe it was a good loss for the Flyers. Maybe we'll look back on that and be like, wow, we didn't know the 2024-25 Stanley Cup champion Calgary Flames. I'm not saying this is the case, but it is kind of cool that Johnny Gaudreau's team is off to a flying start. Like, good for them.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's some of those guys that are playing with that emotion that they want this to be a special year for Calgary.
And shout out to the Columbus Blue Jackets as well. They had their ceremony, I believe, last night.
That was beautiful.
For him.
The 13 seconds coming off the clock.
Yeah.
It was, you trust the NHL to get this correct, and they have.
They do things that are bigger than hockey. I feel like they usually do them right, and it was very nice to see. It's beautiful.
Just so Sports Illustrated put this out in July, the oldest teams in the NHL. Now this has changed a little bit, I think, because I think now Edmonton is on average the oldest team. But as of July in 2024, the Pittsburgh Penguins had the oldest average age of 30.9 years. Edmonton was 30.5. Nashville's 29.8. Carolina's 29.7. So we'll monitor this, but just remember this: that fun, young, scrappy Carolina team is getting up there in age now.
That surprised me.
So they got to think about their future soon too. Tampa Bay, they've got their legacy secured. That probably doesn't bother them as much that they're up there. But yeah, Nashville, you were right. I'm sorry, 29.8, and then I want to see where does the Winnipeg Jets fall in on this? Winnipeg falls in at 28.4, so still in the upper half of the elder teams in the NHL, but probably more pressure on a team like them as opposed to a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning, because like I said, the Lightning have their cups. They're secured. They're fine.
Exactly.
Other teams, pressure's on. Carolina, pressure's on.
Big time.
Toronto, pressure's on.
When is it not? Doesn't really seem to make a difference to them. They don't.
Yeah. So ultimately, what we saw last night was cool, and then it wasn't. And that's that's kind of what the Flyer season might be for the most part.
Yeah.
It was really cool, and then it wasn't so cool.
That was the best way to put it, dude. But no, I got to bring something up too. So I love a captain who I grew up right. My growing up captain was Mike Richards for the most part, right? I love a captain who throws down, right?
Oh yeah.
What's up with Coots, man? I don't think I've ever seen him fight more than once in a multiple season span, and he's fought twice already. And this one, he kind of bumped their goaltender, so I get why they were a little upset with him. And as soon as I don't remember who it was that he fought, but as soon as the person that grabbed him, he did that shake like glove thing where he's like let's go, dude. Like he was like immediate, and I was like, what is happening? And then it cuts immediately to Farabee fighting, which if you're, I'm sure you watched and saw John Tortorella be surprised, like he's like looking away and he looks over, he's like, oh what, like, and then Farabee's fighting, like I was like, what the fuck is happening?
By
dude?
the way, Joel Farabee didn't pick a cupcake. He picked a pretty
Dude.
dastardly fighter in Corey Perry.
Yeah, like that one makes sense. Corey Perry, you knew Corey Perry was talking a lot of shit, and Farabee was like, enough. Yeah. Like you knew that he just got frustrated. I get that, but yeah, he's a seasoned guy, so yeah, he picked the guy who could throw him, and he lost.
Couturier is not the best player on this team by a long shot anymore. Last season, we were so disappointed in how he carried himself as a captain. And I'm not saying you have to fight a bunch to be a good captain. That would be a ridiculous statement. But I do think that you earn respect when you stand up for yourself and you stand up for your teammates.
Yeah.
And Couturier is very much aware. Remember, this was a guy that was, when he was a 19-year-old kid, he was getting cross-checked in the face and dirty hit by a guy like James Neal. Yeah. And next thing you know, Wayne Simmons is out there cross-checking James Neal in the chest, being like, come on, let's go. Let's fight. So Coots knows a thing or two about being on the receiving end on some, crap, and also seeing guys pick him up. So he knows that it's his duty as the captain to pick up guys around him. Claude Giroux didn't fight a ton, but when Claude Giroux dropped the gloves, there was a reason he did. Mike Richards, he was a tough hitter, but I don't remember too many Mike Richards fights. I think he had to do something really crazy to get a fight out of Mike Richards.
Good point. He did hit the dirtily, let's be honest. Now, current days NHL, he would have been suspended a couple
Where was
times,
Mike Richards when we needed him against Scott Stevens? Because what I wouldn't have given to see Mike Richards put Scott Stevens right on his butt in the playoff. But I mean, David Booth unfortunately ended up being a recipient of a Mike Richards dirty.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Bad hit. I hated that hit in the moment. I don't like it now.
That was brutal.
But yeah, so I do agree that Coots is fighting more. I don't have a problem with it as long
Me too. I like it, actually. Like I feel like I wouldn't have in the past, but like now it's just like, no, I like this.
Bill Belichick once told Rodney Harrison, you are allowed one personal foul per game. Do it to get in the head of your opponent. Do it if you need to spark the team. Do it if you just feel that you've been disrespected and you got to take a shot at Dallas Clark or maybe it's a Ronnie Brown or something like that. But ultimately, I'm cool with him doing it as long as it is strategically smart to do it.
True. Yes.
Don't fight a team when you're up 3-0, right? Don't be Dan Carcillo fighting Max Talbot in the playoffs. Right. Don't do that. If you're down 3-1 in a game and you feel like the team needs to pick me up, drop them.
Yeah.
Every time, drop them.
Someone goes after your star Russian prospect, throw down. Yeah.
And so before we go, let's just turn it over. Broad Street Hockey. So John Tortorella is looking at Michkov's game Beyond the Goal. Is that put out by Thomas Williams today? Be sure to check that out. The Flyers, recap game from last night by Jason McNeil. Close, but obviously no cigars. The Flyers lose. Matt Conti writes a list of things that are older than Chet Luchenko.
That's my favorite one so far. That's my favorite one of this week. Yeah, that's the best one.
Jason McNeil writes, important Flyers dates for second half of October. The Wednesday morning flyby, a mixed bag by Kelly Hinkle, obviously with just the links and everything to get to. And breaking down Michkov's and Luchenko's NHL debuts by Thomas Williams that Igor's put out today on October 16th as I date this episode. For the Fly Guys podcast, before we go, Cameron, what do we think? Get back on track tomorrow? That we're feeling it? We're feeling they're going to get back on track tomorrow?
I would like to think so. I would say like it's Dan Bilesman, so you should. But you are on the road. This is the end of your road trip. I'm sure a lot of guys are thinking about coming home. Yep. Right? I would be. Can't blame them there. But I would like them to. And granted, it is the regular season Dan Bilesman, so it's usually when he's at his best.
If we see Dan Bilesman in the playoffs, that means things went really right for us. Throughout the season. Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll be very happy if that ends up happening. But. I will say no. Do I want to win? Yes, of course. If I don't get it, okay. I want to see you improve on the things that you need to be improved on. Keep improving on the discipline. Let's try to have less defensive, your own offensive zone, defensive zone, whatever, your own zone turnovers.
Yep. Win your face-offs.
That's a good one. Yeah, I was trying to think of a third. That's perfect. You can't have 40%. You can't win games long term win 40%, especially when you got, again, Sean Couturier as your captain, who is a known face-off guy. So let's get that corrected as well. But that being said, like, again, it's early enough in the season. I'm not dying for a win. I want to win. But correct the mistakes and just keep moving forward.
You correct the mistakes, you'll win tomorrow. That's my.
If you correct those mistakes, those Michkov goals will be all you need, right? That's all you need.
I think that's the bet online, secured, safe pick of the day. Clean up your turnovers, you'll win games. And for the Fly Guys podcast, which is presented by Bet Online, my name is Justin Goddard. This has been Cameron Klein. Be sure to follow us on X at Fly Guys Podcast, on Instagram at Fly Guys Podcast. Be happy, be healthy, and as always, let's go Flyers.